Happy Tuesday and welcome to Hangout and Talk Twins. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, joined live by Seth Stowe. Seth, how you doing tonight?
Doing wonderful. Pretty excited. We got another guest here tonight that we'll get to know a little bit better. We'll talk Twins in the major leagues. We'll talk Twins in the minor leagues, and we'll answer any questions you have, whether it's on twinsdaily.com or Twitter or any of those media or mediums. Is that right? Media or mediums?
I
Anyway,
think
we'll answer your questions. We'll answer your questions if we have them, but be sure to tell everyone you know about this and download it on iTunes where it'll be available very soon. But yeah, we got lots to talk about. We've, I think, reached the 2-hour point the last 2 weeks, and I did get some emails last week. I challenged anyone that got to that minute and 55 or 2-hour mark or something like that. I challenged those people to either email me or send me a tweet or something like that. I did have 3 people send me notes that they did get all the way through it. So, and I also found out that some of the most interesting, according to one of those, some of the most interesting part of our conversation this last week was in the last 10 minutes. So be sure to keep listening throughout the entire show.
yeah, you don't want to give up on us early because apparently we get good as we get more tired. And we've
Yeah,
known that from Seth in the past.
I'm a tired individual.
All right. So we're going to be joined here shortly by Zach Larson, who is a outfielder for the Colonels. If you have any questions for Zach, you can get them in here quickly at twinsdaily.com on the Hangout page, or by tweeting either the Twins Hangouts or myself or Seth. I'm going to add him here, and as soon as he joins the call, we'll start talking to him. Obviously, the Colonels played their game earlier today and came up on the short side of the stick. Quad City scored 8 runs in the first 2 innings. Ended up with 18 hits and a 10-4 victory. So, tough loss to take there early in the day. And Zach went 0 for 3 today. So we're going to get that out of the way before he jumps in. That way we don't have to talk about the 0 for 3 ball. While we're waiting, Seth, is there anything that you want to add about today's game?
No, I mean, I think the tough part, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is some of the travel in the Midwest League. They played in Quad Cities last night, and then right away this morning they went back. Now it's about, and I'm not exactly sure, it's 2 to 2.5 hours of drive either way, or both ways. So that was a late night getting back to Cedar Rapids, and then they had to leave early again this morning. So, it's a tough thing sometimes, that travel, and we don't always notice that.
If you're just joining us, we're going to be joined here shortly by Colonel's outfielder Zach Larson. We're just waiting for him to accept the invite and get on. We had him on here earlier when we were working through our issues, so we know it's a workable deal here. The Colonels were roughed up. Their pitching staff, their starter Josue Montanez, is that how we say his name, Seth?
That is correct.
Only recorded 5 outs, gave up 7 hits, 3 walks, and 8 earned runs. Todd Van Steensel, friend of Taylor Swift, Todd Van Steensel, lasted 2 1/3 and struck out 3 and only gave up 1 run on 4 hits and 2 walks. Christian Powell gave up 6 hits in 3 innings, struck out 2, and Alex Murin gave up a hit and a walk, and it's the only scoreless pitcher of the day. What do we got here? Give me a second.
Well, Brian Harr was 2 for 4 in the game and did hit his 5th home run of the year. I believe that ties him with Mitch Garver at the top of the team lead. The other guy, and I'm sure maybe we'll talk a little more about him later, is J.D. Williams, who was taken off the disabled list, and he's on the Colonels roster right now. Today he was 2 for 2 with 2 walks and a double, and he's 5 for 13 with a .556 on-base percentage in just a handful of games as he returns from that broken thumb that he suffered in the spring training. You must have your volume loud because I can hear you really well. Or I can hear me really well through the computer.
Zach is sending me a video call, but not joining ours. So keep talking, Seth.
I'll just keep talking. J.D. Williams, I would expect that he would not be in Cedar Rapids too long. He did move up last year in the second half to Fort Myers, so I'm sure after that broken thumb, he's just trying to get a few at bats, get some pitches under his belt, and see what he's able to do. Um, the big news today, or in the last couple of days, is Byron Buxton did return to the lineup this week. He's in his third game tonight. He was 0 for 7 in his first two games with 4 strikeouts. So either that's just a very small sample size of 2 games, or it's some rust, as you would expect, since he hasn't really played in almost 2 months. But tonight, in his first at bat in the first inning, he gave the Fort Myers Miracle a 2-0 lead with a 2-run home run in the first inning. So that's good news as well. I know he went. I think he went 1 for 3 during the rest of the game. He's just 1 for 10 on the season, but
Hey, I think we're in.
We're in.
all right. So again, thank you very much to Zach Larson, the Cedar Rapids outfielder, for joining us tonight. I believe you're in Cedar Rapids. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm here in this cold weather, but I think it's starting to warm up.
It was like 46 here near Canada. I live right on the Canadian border. 46 is like warm for here, so we're pretty happy about that.
Oh man, I'm from Florida, so I'm not used to this 30s and 40s. So
Well, let's talk about that. Some of this Midwest League stuff. We were just talking before you came on. Last night you played in Quad Cities, drove back to Cedar Rapids, and had an 11 o'clock game back in Quad Cities today. I think it's 2.5 hours each direction. I mean, how do you get used to the travel in a league where you could be going as far as Ohio from Central Iowa? I mean, what's that been like so far?
I don't mind it actually. I kind of like traveling. I get some right when I get home. I get some good sleep. I don't try to stay up too late and dread waking up in the morning. So I go to bed at a decent hour every night usually, and get some sleep and sleep on the bus a little bit if I can, and just get ready to play every day.
So what about that weather? I mean, like you said, you're from Florida. Spring training's in Florida, and the next thing you know, you're opening the season. I want to say in maybe 32-degree weather. I mean, had you ever played in anything similar to that, or anything to prepare you for that?
Well, I lived in after I was born in Florida, and then I lived in Virginia for about 4 years, and I played in some cold weather there. But I was younger, so I don't really remember much from then. But cold weather, I just had long sleeves on and didn't really think about it much. Was just focused on the game and more excited to be, playing, and adrenaline was going a little bit the first couple games, and I wasn't really trying to think about it too much.
Let's talk a little bit about spring training. Last year, let's talk first about last year. You started in the GCL, and about halfway through, you were hitting, I think, 330, and then you moved up to Elizabethton, and I think you were over 300 again. Did that surprise you? And how did you feel overall about your season last year?
I was very happy with my season. I was just out of high school my first year, and just get my feet wet with pro ball, and I came back season after that, and was just trying to improve on things that I needed to improve on, and I think I did pretty good job on doing that last year, and happy with what I did, and yeah, overall good season last year.
We kind of wanted to take a step back again, being from Florida. We read that you played some summer ball for 1991 World Series Minnesota Twins champion Mark Guthrie. Tell us a little bit about that, and as much about your summer ball experience in Florida. I'd imagine the competition's pretty good at that level.
Yeah, actually, my mom is good friends with Mark Guthrie. They went to the same high school together, Venice High School, and I played with him over the summer, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Great coach, same as Coach Faulkner. He's actually the Venice High head coach. He, they're both really good coaches. They teach you the game. They teach you how to play the game right and how to go hard. Uh, Florida baseball is pretty good baseball over the summer. Uh, Traveled a bunch, went to Georgia, played in a big tournament in Georgia, Jupiter tournament. A bunch of good players there come out of Florida and good competition.
Jeremy, you want to jump in quick with a question or
Yeah,
two?
hey Zach, thanks for coming on here and weathering the technology storm that we had there a little bit ago.
No problem.
One thing that always interests me whenever I have the chance to, I like to talk about the draft. And your situation was a little bit different. You were drafted in the 20th round and signed at the deadline. What went into those 6 or 7 weeks in between getting drafted and making your decision to join the Twins instead of going to college?
Um, well, I really wanted to play professional baseball. That was my number one. Uh, but I wanted to make sure that everything was right. It's not about the money, but in some cases it is a little bit. But I just wanted to talk to my family a little longer and see what they thought about it and see what what I was looking at, what I really wanted to do, what was my main focus on either going professional or going to college. And my main goal was to always be a professional baseball player, and I always wanted to be a professional baseball player, and I jumped on it. Uh, you never know what could happen in college. I could have gotten hurt and ended everything, and maybe never got another chance to play. So
So when was it something that, I mean, you took that whole 7 weeks? Because a lot of times it seems like with guys that aren't, especially high school guys that are drafted in the the 20th round and on, even the late teens, that it's a not always something that happens right away. So were the Twins in contact with you shortly after the draft, or was this something that kind of came together after the calendar turned to July?
yeah, we were in communication a lot the 6 weeks. They were calling me and saying, "Hey, where you at? This is what we're at." Um, and it was just like that, probably every other or every week they'd give me a call and see how I was doing and what was going on, and just being there saying, "We really want you. We hope we can make everything work out." Everything was good. Everything was good.
It's awesome. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
All right.
Another thing that, go ahead, Seth.
Now I was going to jump back to the other sport where the draft is coming up soon here. You played football in high school,
I did.
and until your senior year, from what I've read.
Mhm.
Did you ever miss playing it, and do you follow it? I mean, being from Florida, I know it's a big football state. Do you watch college football, and do you watch what's going on this week with the draft?
Uh, yeah, I watch football. I'm not like a football was just another sport that I played just to play something and get stronger because we worked out every day and to um, just be I don't know, kind of made me a man, I guess you can say. A lot of hard work, a lot of dedication to being football, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and lifting weights and getting after it before school even starts. Um, I don't really, I mean, I watch the draft, but I don't really know much about the draft. Baseball was my number one sport, and I knew I was going to go play baseball after high school. I didn't think I was going to go play football anywhere. So,
I, maybe I'm wrong, but I sense some modesty here because was it true that you started for 3 years before you were a 3-year varsity starter before giving up football?
yeah, I was. I played. I played.
Jeremy's good at this research thing.
I I played I was on varsity all 3 years, and then I separated my shoulder my sophomore year, I believe it was summer or sophomore year, and I was going into my senior year, and I was getting scouted for baseball, and football season started, and I actually went out to practice, and I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, you know what, baseball's my number one sport. If I get hurt, I could be done. I could lose everything. And it was a very tough decision. I was the captain of my football team. I was the quarterback of the team, and not many people were happy with me when I told them I wasn't going to play football.
Can't
But
imagine that.
our head football coach is the athletic director, and he understood everything what I was telling him. He knew baseball was my number one sport, and he knew what I was going through, and he was supportive about it. And it was good that he understood.
So did you play basketball too?
I did. I played basketball my freshman year. I was
Varsity.
on varsity my freshman year, and that was just kind of a sport that I've always played. And I was just like, hey, why not play it in high school? But then I played all three sports, and it was just I never had one break. Basketball was kind of whatever sport just to play something. I always had to be doing something. So
Basketball
Understood.
was whatever sport that he started on as a freshman at varsity. Basketball is like all I did, and I didn't even sniff the varsity floor until the end of my sophomore year. It's amazing how that works.
Very good. All right, we're joined by Zach Larson of the Cedar Rapids Colonels for a few minutes here. Let's start talking a little bit about your 2014 season here. You made the Cedar Rapids Colonels out of spring training. You're one of the younger guys, at least offensively or lineup-wise, on the roster. I'm curious a few things, but I want to start with when I'm looking at prospects and rankings and things like that. I don't always look at the home runs. A lot of times I look at doubles, and right now you're leading the Midwest League in doubles, which to me speaks of line drives, but also power, gap power that can continue to grow. How do you describe yourself as a hitter? Are you a power hitter? Are you an average hitter? Or are you still trying to find that out?
um, I would say I could do it all. I guess. I mean, I'm not like I'll hit home runs, a ton of home runs. I'll hit a couple, and I don't really worry about hitting home runs really. I'm only 20 years old. Hopefully, some more power will come along the way, but I don't really worry about that right now. I just worry about hitting the ball good, putting good swings on the ball, and just doing whatever I can to help the team win. And I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job this year so far.
It's been a month. I mean, it hasn't even been that many weeks, maybe 4 weeks of a season, a little more than that. Um, have you had to make any adjustments, or what have you learned about your game over the first month? Is there something you've learned from a teammate or something?
Um, I've had to make an adjustment on. Well, I started in the three hole this year, the first week or two, and I started off pretty hot, and then started getting some more off-speed pitches thrown at me, and I had to adjust that a little bit. Um, Probably be more patient. Um, get a good pitch to hit. Understand how to hit a slider, or a curveball, or a changeup, other than something in a fastball. Um, so I've worked with Tommy Watkins on learning how to see pitches better, and to see a slider and a curveball and hit them better, and be more patient as a hitter.
Talk just a minute about Tommy Watkins. I typically make a trip every year to Cedar Rapids. Last year I made 2 trips. Before they were in Beloit, I'd make a trip a year and got to know Tommy a little bit. I mean, first of all, he's great to play, be part of the team. I mean, he keeps it pretty loose, but when it's game time, he expects you to go out and play. I want to get your thoughts on Tommy, but also on playing for Jake. I mean, I've got a chance to know him a little bit too. That's got to be a little bit different experience as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love playing for these two guys. Tommy, he's a real cool guy. Um, like you said, he's real calm and loose before the game starts, and when the game starts, though, he's all about business, and I think that's what the team's about. We want to win, and Tommy's about working hard and doing the little things right, and same as Jake. Jake's a great coach. It's awesome to play for Jake, his brother, Joe, and they definitely know a lot about baseball, probably more than anybody else, and it's great hearing from Jake and Jake giving you advice and learning more about the game.
Have you
Certainly.
been up to Target Field?
I have not.
You're not too far from it right now.
Not too far. I think we were one of our off days. I think some of the guys wanted to go and watch a game or something. We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, it'd be worth the trip. I mean, how far is it from the city, Seth? Hour
About 4.5 hours.
2.5
yeah.
hours?
Yeah.
Oh, it's about 4 hours. Depends on how fast these guys drive.
From All right. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent drive. We drove down there last year, and it didn't seem that long, but I guess maybe road trips for me.
You drive.
Well, I don't drive fast, but I think maybe road trips on the bus seem longer than road trips on the car when you can kind of, stop when you want and you're not on a tight schedule, that type of thing.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
you go. What about the adjustment besides the weather to Cedar Rapids? I mean, I'm guessing you're with a host family. You probably played with a lot of your teammates even last year, either in the GCL or at Elizabeth, and probably some new guys. What's the adjustment, to the host family and to new teammates at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I played with a bunch of these guys last year. A lot of this team's from the E-Town team, but the host family situation, everything's good here. I guess, just getting used to the host family and getting used to some of the guys that were here last year. Everyone's good on this team. Everyone gets along great with each other, and I guess the travel is probably the most thing to get used to. E-Town, we traveled, but it wasn't as far as probably here. That's probably it.
I'm going to go back to spring training. I spent 7 or 8 days down there. One of the good stories that I saw, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I was watching live BP one day. You were hitting against Fernando Romero, and I think you said that it was a slider that got you about up in the shoulder area. And someone behind the screen where I was made the comment to you, did you get hit by a 114-mile-an-hour fastball? And you go, no, it was just the slider. But I guess that was a fun story, but maybe not for you. But there's a lot of good arms down in the minor leagues, even in the GCL or the extended right now. Talk a little bit about some of the arms that you see. And I mean, Aaron Slager is off to a great start with you guys right now. You got some pretty good pitchers going. I mean, talk a little bit as a hitter about some of the pitchers you see coming up here.
Yeah, our starter's doing a great job. Sluggers is, he's 6 foot, whatever he is, 7'10", whatever, and the ball gets on him real quick. And all of our starting pitchers, are doing real well. Pitchers we've seen have been pretty good college, a lot of college arms, a lot of guys straight out of college, maybe their first year or second year playing, and I get made fun of because I'm a high school guy and I never went to college, and all the college guys are like, yeah, this is college right here. You see a bunch of curveballs and change-ups and fastballs when you don't think you'll see them. So I've adjusted to that a little bit, and overall, we have a bunch of good pitchers in this organization, and it's fun to watch.
I have just 2 questions left if you have a couple minutes. Jeremy, do you got anything yet?
I was just going to ask him one kind of off, not baseball question, but.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely, go ahead.
You want me to go first, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you were just talking about a lot of college guys, and obviously, you're a couple years out of high school, so, not yet 21 years old. Do you see that like the college guys have they can kind of go out and do what they want, and with the high school guys, is there a divide there, or I mean, is it a pretty good atmosphere for anybody, whether they're Dominican and can't speak the language, or 24 and out of college? Is it kind of everybody's the same? Because I mean, just the brief experience that I had, and it wasn't even with the Twins organization. It was, yeah, he's a college guy. We don't really hang out with those guys. Or is it a pretty good mix, and you guys all get along? And it seems like you do, but I just thought I'd ask that question.
Yeah, I think there's a couple high schoolers on our team, but different draft years. But everyone's gets along great. My roommate here in Cedar Rapids is a college guy, Mitch Garver, and a guy lives right across the street from us is Brian Haar, and I hang out with those two guys all the time because we live right next to. Garver lives with me, and Haar lives right next to me, and guys just make fun. Guys just call me They call me high school on the team just because I was out of high school, but. We all get along good. There's, we don't, everyone's the same, no matter if you're Dominican or whatever. We're all together as a team and as a family.
Jeremy, he mentioned Mitch Garver. We'll have to talk about him because he was named the Twins' daily hitter of the month for April, by the way. But my last two questions. Number one, who are a couple of people that have helped you kind of get to this point in your career, be it in Florida or coming to this point in Cedar Rapids?
Yeah, I'd have to say my hitting coach down in Florida, Ted Rose. I've been getting lessons from him since I was 9 years old, and I hit with him every off season and whenever I'm down there in Florida. And probably Mark Guthrie and Craig Faulkner, those two guys have really helped me out along the ways. Just understanding the game more and understanding my swing more and baseball and everything about baseball, really. But two best coaches I've ever been taught by, other than I think Tommy and Jake. They're unbelievable. And yeah.
Very good. Last question, and then we'll let you go because we've already taken longer than we promised, as we're want to do. But goals for the rest of the year. I mean, do you look at certain numbers? Do you have a goal of maybe getting to Fort Myers, or have you even given that a lot of thought to this point?
Honestly, I don't really think about numbers or think about when they get promoted to Fort Myers. I mean, everyone wants that, but you can only control what you can control. You don't know what what the brass wants to do with you or what's going on in their minds. So just keep playing hard and give everything I got every single day, and everything will play out how it needs to be played out.
I lied. I got one more. It's spring training, even in minor league camp. You got Tom Kelly there, who's won 2 World Series. I don't know how much maybe you got to see or have been around like the likes of Paul Molitor, Tony Oliva, some of the veterans that they bring in. These guys that even Bert Blyleven. I don't know how much you see him, or even Jack Morris. But all these guys coming back to the Twins. Did you get a chance to meet any of those types this year or in previous years?
Yeah, absolutely. We met with all of them. We had meetings, and Paul Molitor talked about base running, and TK's out there talking about everything that you can think of, and Tony Oliva we had a meeting with him talking about hitting, and yeah, we met all of them, and all gave us great information, and it was really neat listening to what they had to say.
Awesome. All right.
I want to ask Zach one more question, and this is for you, Seth.
All right.
So, Zach, you're a little bit younger than we are, and Seth is really good at the Twitter. He's got a lot of followers, but what he's not good at is using Twitter as a dating tool. Do you have any advice for Seth on how we can get him to use Twitter better as a dating tool?
Oh, man.
I don't get it.
No advice?
Well, I myself have a girlfriend, so I've never used Twitter as a dating tool. So
okay, we'll keep working on that one, Seth.
All right, I guess I'll do that. All right, Zach, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Thanks for your patience with some of our questions and for your upfront answers. So good luck the rest of the season, and maybe we can do this again in a couple of months.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
All
Thanks,
right,
Zach.
thank you very
Take
much.
care.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Very good. Well, that's definitely one we're going to want to watch. I know he can flat out hit, and you got that sly smile going right now. So thanks for your last question. That was fun.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if he had some good advice, I mean, why would we not want to tap into these younger kids that know how to do this better?
I don't know. I don't know. He's
Exactly.
also a pretty good hitter.
There's no good. What?
He's also a really good hitter.
Well, it helps that he's also probably better at, all the sports than anybody that we know. And
That's
he's like,
probably
oh, I just do it. But I started on varsity as a freshman in
right.
Florida.
I was going to bring up the fact that the 2 years I played on varsity basketball in high school, we went a combined 3-39. So that was fun.
That's not very good.
No, it's pretty terrible. You know, when teams
And
talk
you know
about
what
not being able to beat a team 3 times in one season, teams had no
you
problem
did
doing
it?
that with us.
Oh, you
No,
played teams 3 times?
well, you play them once at home, once on the road, and then, in the playoffs or something. Then they'd beat us really bad again. So here's the other thing I was going to ask you. When a player in the minors or the majors or any level says, I don't really think about the numbers, how much do you buy that?
Um, I think professional baseball players understand that there's slumps and there's hot streaks, and you can't really let your highs get too high or your lows get too low, or they're going to be prolonged slumps. So I think that's kind of the mentality that you have to tell yourself, even if you don't necessarily. I mean, if you do look at the numbers, you still have to tell yourself that that could change with a good week. It could get, it could obviously get better with a good week. It could get worse with a bad week. I mean, isn't that kind of how you feel too?
Oh, certainly, especially this early in the season. But I also think, a player's going to notice what his batting average is, and maybe they don't all look at the advanced stats, even things like on base percentage. But you have to think that they actually know what those stats are. But the thing that I do appreciate are the players that are able to know that information, absorb that information, and yet fully understand that their job is also to play within a team concept while at the same time trying on an individual basis to keep moving up. And to me, that's what's so fun to me about following the minor leagues and this process to get up to the big leagues, because it is an individual sport within a team concept, and I think that's kind of fun.
Well, if Zach's not looking at his numbers, we can tell you them. He's batting 294 with a 347 on base percentage and a 422 slugging percentage. So he has an OPS of 769. 4 stolen bases, and 11 doubles. So pretty solid stats if he's not checking out. Playing almost exclusively in right field this year.
And again, the fact that he's 20, playing against a lot of 22, 23-year-old pitchers makes those numbers even more impressive. I mean, that's kind of the whole prospect thing that we talk about a little bit from time to time. So, but I think we should go back and talk a little bit. We brought him up in the show, and if those of you who are on Twins Daily, Steve Boer just posted a Q&A or kind of a story on Aaron Slegers called Aaron Slegers is Standing Tall. Again, he's 6'10", or as Kevin Garnett used to say, he was 7'13" because he didn't want the stigma of being a 7-footer. I think I said 7'13". I meant 6'13".
He's not 8 feet tall.
Yeah, no, that was not good on my part right there. But anyway, I mean, Slegers has been terrific. Ryan Eads has had a couple of pretty good starts of late. Van Steensel gave up a run today, but he's been really good since he came up. I mean, there's some guys who are doing good work. Felix Jorge's struggling a little bit, but he's one of those guys that's real young for the level as well. And Yorman Londa, I think, has kind of come on out of the bullpen. I think he worked 3 dominant innings yesterday, and in fact, I think he was 9 for 9 in terms of getting players out. So, it's a pretty decent team. I want to say they're 18-12 right now. Does that sound about right? Maybe 18-13. And I
Yes.
would not have guessed that coming into the season.
No, but I think we knew that although they did not have the 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 offensive, I don't know what the word is, the lineup that they had last year with the prospects, they have a lot of guys that are advanced. I mean, guys that hit well in college, are older than probably league average. And when you look at the prospects on that roster, you see guys like Zach Larson, but you see a lot of guys that are older than him. And for the hitters to succeed at this level, I don't know that that's shocking. Um, but I think when you mentioned Sluggers and Eads, there's no reason for those two to be at this level much longer. And for Sluggers, who was the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year last year, and for Eads, who pitched extremely well in the SEC, low A should be easy. And I think with Baxendale, who was barely there, and Taylor Rogers, who I think made like 3 starts, there's really nothing holding them back from being promoted. And if a promotion happened, relatively soon, I think that's to be expected. I know Tom Shaw pitched yesterday, Groover pitched today, and I'm not exactly sure why Groover pitched for the Miracle today. But there's nothing standing in the way. You have Wheeler, you have Lee, you have Barrios. Wimmers has struggled, but I think Sluggers and Eads are going to be up by the end of May, if not sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to these guys need to be pitching as starters. They're going with 6-man rotations in the low minor leagues, which I think makes a lot of sense. And it's just a matter of finding a place where they'll get those innings. And right now, based on the logjam up above, which can always move, these guys are just getting early season innings. Jason Wheeler's a guy, I did a story on him that was posted earlier today in Fort Myers. He's back there and pitching even better than he was last year, which was solid, but better as the season went along. You got to think he'll move up to New Britain. He'll be the next guy. Tyler Duffy was moved up there this week. But I would think Jason Wheeler would be next in line, and when Wheeler moves up, you would think Sluggers, that'll be his opportunity. Of course, there's always injuries, or you don't want to make too much out of 4 or 5 starts, that type of stuff. But I think Sluggers for sure is at that point where he's ready to move up.
For sure. Let's move on here to the next team on the list. Let's talk a little bit about the Red Wings. And I think the discussion that needs to be had tonight, we can talk about Arcia, who had 2 hits again tonight. We could talk about Parmley, who's been on a tear. But I think the most pressing situation, the most pressing issue in the organization at all, is that Matt Guerrero has a opt-out for Thursday. And he's basically said he's not willing to push back that opt-out, that if the Twins don't add him, he'll elect free agency. Didn't really help his case today that he took the loss, gave up a home run, 3 hits, and 3 runs. Do you think that and I don't know what time the opt-out is Thursday, but do you think that on Thursday, at the end of the day Thursday, when we turn the calendar to the 9th on Friday, that Matt Guerrero is a member of the Minnesota Twins?
My sense is that he will not be. I don't think he's pitched enough. But at the same time, I don't know that any other team would give him a major league deal at this stage. I mean, he is already 35. He'll be 36 later in the season. The reality is kind of like Jason Kubel. He was hurt last year. He had surgery. He had arm issues. And he is just coming back. He was very good, and he's been very good in the major leagues for a long time. He's been a good 7th inning guy for a long time. And I mean, right now the Twins have Perkins, Dunsing, Burton, Bean, Swarzak, and Thielbar that I think are guys that are certainly not going anywhere. you've got Logan Darnell right now, who's kind of acting as the long reliever, and you got to think they're going to want him to get back down and continue starting. And you've got Michael Tonkin, who, as much as he's got upside, he has options, and he's got things he can continue to work on. I mean, I think we've all seen how dominant he can be, but he could use some time too. So, I mean, the only way I really see it is if they feel like Tonkin needs to address something, or if they're going to just clear the way so that Darnell can get back to the minor leagues, so that Darnell can start. The two issues there become who becomes the long man out of the bullpen. I think that pushes Anthony Swarzak back to the long relief role, which he's, really still been doing. The other half of that, though, is the 40-man roster decision, and if you add Matt Guerrier to the 40-man roster and to the 25-man roster, not only do you have to take someone out of the bullpen, you've also got to drop someone from the 40-man roster. And that's not to say there aren't plenty of options that they wouldn't necessarily be hurt, but I mean, he is 35, which isn't young. It's not like Kubel, who was only 20 or 21. I'm sorry, 31. But I think Guerrero's got something left. I think he needs more time. But at the same time, I don't blame him for not being willing to move that opt-out date just to see what's out there. I mean, what is your sense?
I guess my feeling is that the Twins will add him, and that they can get down to 12 pitchers by moving the two guys that you suggested, Darnell and Tonkin, back to AAA. And then Guerrero steps up and he, assumes a role in the bullpen, and Swarzak goes back to the long relief. And he at least gets an audition long enough while Pelfrey's rehabbing.
Right.
They can easily make a 40-man spot, and I think that the Twins value having, those guys that they've had, and they know what Matt Guerrero brings to the organization, and he's a proven bullpen arm, and the thing that Guerrero was, the thing that I remember most about him as a Twin is that he took the ball basically every night and was effective on most of those nights. Now, I don't think that was necessarily the role that he was best in, as he kind of turned into a setup guy. But at this point in his career, and I know that he's at Armish's and they wouldn't necessarily use him the same way, but I think when it comes down to the bullpen needing, if the bullpen is getting overworked, that he's a guy that you can just give the ball to. And he's not going to give you 3 or 4 innings, but he's a guy that you can count on. And if it doesn't work out and they, release him or let him go at some point, that you then have that extra spot where they can be active on the waiver wire. But I just think there's probably 3 or 4 guys on the 40-man that could be moved pretty easily. And Guerrero deserves a shot to see if he still has it. And I think the Twins will give it to him. Right or wrong, I think the Twins are going to give it to him.
And honestly, I kind of am about, real close to 50-50 on that. I will not be surprised if what you say is exactly right. I mean, again, the big thing is he's a good pitcher, and he's proven it for a long time. And, if he's healthy, he can be all right again. I don't think tonight helped, but I think the Twins are smarter than looking at one outing. They're looking at the bigger picture, the bigger scale. Tonkin's part of the future. I mean, I think people will, if what you're suggesting happens, which would be Tonkin and Darnell move down to add 35-year-old Guerrero, Twins Daily and Twitter will go crazy. But I mean, you have to look at the bigger picture, and I don't think that is a wrong decision. I also don't think letting go of him is a wrong decision. I mean, it's depth. So
now, do you think there's value in Tonkin going down to Rochester and being their closer versus a guy that's pitching in to a batter or two in sometimes high leverage, but quite often not high leverage situations? Do you think that there's a chance that Logan Darnell sticks around in the starting rotation? Because he's a guy that can throw a ton of innings, and I'd like to use him as he's younger. And the velocity in that was a surprise. But if he can throw 94, 95, and I think even in not this past year's handbook, but 2 years ago, that was something that because I think I did the write up on him and I talked about how he could be effective in a lot of different roles. And I guess right now I'd like to see how he would do as a starter because he seemed different than the Scott Diamonds and the Andrew Albers because he was throwing 95. And I think the Twins had before tonight 3 pitches all year that had hit 95. And if he's a lefty starter that can go 95 in between all these right-handed guys that don't throw as fast, throw as hard, maybe he's worth giving an extended look to. Now, that would change what I think about Guerrero. That could put Deduno back in the long roll. But is there any chance that happens?
No. How's that for your short answer? Not now. I mean, he's only had, a couple handfuls of starts, in AAA, maybe 6 or 10 last year and 4 this year. I would say let's be careful to think that he's going to be a guy that's going to hit 94 to 95 consistently. Maybe that's what he could do out of the bullpen, which, again, makes him intriguing. But I think everything report I've ever heard, is really he's more in that 91, 92 range. Once in a while, touch 93. My guess is he hasn't pitched in a long time, and he was pretty amped up tonight. And you can't blame him. He should be, and he pitched great. And but if he has another couple outings like this, there's no reason to think that he can't be part of that future. More than just a short-term thing. So I think that is pretty exciting. We talk about Meyer, we talk about May. I certainly talk a lot about Johan Pino. But, I think with Meyer and May and Gibson and now just seeing what we saw from Darnell tonight, there's some hope out there, for pretty decent pitchers coming up.
Speaking of Johan Pino, does your daughter ever, wake up in the morning and, walk by your room and say, Dad, you were doing it again? Doing what? Talking about Johan Pino in your sleep. Does that ever happen at the Stowe's house or not?
No, that would be weird. I don't think I've had a dream about Johan Pino. I'm a big fan of Johan Pino, and I was saying that before. He's thrown two straight shutouts here. So, for those that aren't aware, he's the 30-year-old who's at Rochester. He was the player that the Twins traded to Cleveland several years ago to get Carl Pavano. He's been in the Oregon. Well, he was signed originally with the Twins in 2004. And he's never made it to the big leagues despite doing really good work in AA and AAA for about the last 5 or 6 years. So, to me, he's a great story. I'm certainly not advocating that he's going to be some sort of an all-star or anything more than a spot starter or long reliever on a short-term basis. But, to me, that's one of those stories you'd love to see come to fruition. But no dreams about Johan Pino so far.
I bet you that's a different story about 12 hours from now.
Yeah, that's very possible, and if people want to ask us about that, leave a comment in the Twins Daily, and that will remind me that I need to answer whether or not I had a dream about Johan Pino last night.
I'll definitely ask you in the morning.
I'm sure you
will. Moving to the Miracle Game. How did we go in 49 minutes and not talk about this? Honestly.
I did. I already brought it up.
Buxton's home run?
I did when you were telling me that I needed to just keep talking for a while.
Oh. Okay, never mind what I just said. So let's talk about Byron Buxton hitting a home run again.
Hey, let's do that.
No doubter. First pitch he swings at, left field. Everything is right in the world. Byron Buxton's back. And then he strikes out later. He's batting 1 for 10 on the year. He's got 5 strikeouts. But Byron Buxton's back.
And that's the important thing. People are going to worry too much about him going 1 for 10 to start the time. And I know of his first 7 at bats, 4 of them were strikeouts. Yes, there's some rust to that too. There's some small sample size. And, it is different facing Florida State League pitchers than it is facing extended spring training pitchers. So it'll take a little while. As much as we thought, he'll get a handful of games at Fort Myers, that might be right. But the thing is there's absolutely no rush. It's not like He's still on the disabled list. He's been activated, and he'll move up when he's ready to move up, whether that's 5 games from now or 15 games from now. I don't expect it to be real long, but
Okay. I'm putting the over under the before and after on Memorial Day,
what is that, like May 31st ish?
May 26th ish, 25th, 26th.
I'll. That's a tough one. That's a good over under. So I'll take the under. I still think it'll be a little bit less than that, but yeah, it'll be real close to that, I think.
So you think he will be in a Rock Cat uniform on Memorial Day?
Yes.
I'm going to take the
Based,
other side of that.
based on nothing. You
I'm
were
going
going
to
to
take
take
the
the
other
other
side.
side of whatever I said.
Well, no, I was going to take the other. I was going to take the after. I just figured you'd take the before because you're the positive guy that looks things as a oh, it's going to be great, everything's going to be fine type guy.
I
Like
try.
he's gonna go 5 for 5 tomorrow. Everything's gonna be fine. He's gonna move up. Uh, I think that they want to. Well, I guess I don't know what they're thinking, but if I was in charge, I would want to make sure that he is hitting with 100% confidence, doing everything he could possibly do correctly at high A because high A to double A is a huge jump, and I want to make sure that he's ready for it, and I'm not going to send him up there if he's striking out more than he should be. His defense is obviously always going to be there. He's obviously going to be able to hit for power. Um, the speed is going to make up for things. But if you're swinging through a lot of fastballs, you're not ready to move up. And I think that he's probably swinging through a lot of fastballs right now. Um, so I would keep him down there, and if I have to keep him down there until the middle of June or the end of June. At this point, it's not going to change his trajectory at all. He's going to end this year at Double A, and compete for a starting spot next year, which he probably won't get, and he'll start the season in Rochester next year and be called up when he's ready. I don't know that a month or 6 weeks or even 2 months change that this year. This year is going to be split between high A and double A, and next year is going to be triple A and the big leagues. And as much as I would like to say he's going to be at Target Field in July, with this injury, it's not going to happen.
Right. Right, and that's just it. I mean, we'll hear from people, you and I both, about how we were crazy with those predictions, and the reality is we'll never know just because of this injury. I mean, it did cost him essentially 6-7 weeks of time, and that takes you from getting called up in July to, not getting called up, and that's the right thing to do.
Right. And I honestly still believe that he would have been up sometime in the second half because he would have adjusted just fine and had a couple months at double A to adjust, and that's a thing that he's done that surprised everybody is he adjusted so quickly. He didn't get off to a great start in the GCL when he signed, but when they moved him up to the Appy League, he adjusted just fine, and he got off to a crazy hot start in Cedar Rapids, and then he had a bad 3 games to start off Fort Myers, and then just adjusted real fine. So
Right.
that was the thing that surprised everybody about him, but it's something that he's going to continue to do, and it's the exact opposite from what Aaron Hicks did. And I just think that at this point we know what's going to happen this year, and if there's something else happens, great. But if he can stay healthy for the rest of the year and just get kind of the rust wore off and have some success at Double A, that the Twins are looking at their second half 2014 starter. As long as we're talking about Buxton and the potential of being a starter next year, did you see that the Pirates offered Gregory Polanco essentially a 7-year deal that could be a 10-year deal for far under what his worth is? He said no, so they're keeping him down in AAA until the Super 2 deadline passes. Did you see that report tonight?
I saw the report, and you can say it's far less than he's worth. Well, I mean, that's obviously a risk that either he or the team would have to take. But I mean, again, it's kind of crazy. I know I saw you post that the Twins just offered Buxton a 10-year deal right now, and although I would not be completely against it, I mean, the risk is all on the team in these situations, and I mean, Polanco is a great prospect, no question about it. He's a top 20, top 25.
He's more
Um,
like a top 6 at this point.
okay, well, I mean, he's not number one like Mr. Buxton, so
No, but he was the Dominican League Player of the Year.
yep.
I mean, his prospect star continued to rise over the winter, and I think if you take Bogarts out of the equation and throw that you may find prospect experts that would take Polanco over any other player in the minors right now, and that's
And
not
understandable.
entirely crazy. That's
No,
not crazy at all. So
no. Just one other thing. I know the funny thing about, again, we're 5 weeks into the season, maybe 4 weeks into the minor league season. Travis Harrison is a guy who started out really slow for the Miracle, and then he got on fire for about 2 weeks, 15 games probably, where he was hitting about 400. He's now in his last 7 games 0 for 25 and back to 255. So, I mean, it tells you how slumps and the guys that get to the big leagues are the guys who are able to keep their slumps limited by making adjustments quickly. And guys in these levels, Fort Myers, Cedar Rapids, they're learning how to make those adjustments on the fly, and it's going to take longer at these levels than it hopefully will going forward. But it's almost good for them to go through those to see how they come out of them.
yeah, and on the other side of that coin, Levi Michael continues to play amazing baseball. He's batting 322. Jorge Polanco still playing short. Limited. The errors have not been occurring as frequently. He's batting 314, and Nico Goodrum is adjusting just fine to playing third base, batting 298. Stole his fifth base tonight. So there's a lot of. I mean, I think we were all aware coming into the season that there was going to be some infield prospects in Fort Myers that were going to play well. But I don't think any of us saw this collection of guys doing what they're doing and doing it this well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was surprised just to see how it played out with Polanco at short and Goodrum at third all the time. And then and Levi Michael has definitely earned that continued playing time, and we forget he's still just 23 years old. So, I mean, it's a good group of prospects. I think Polanco at this stage right now, if you were to make a top 10 list, he'd probably be, sitting there right around 5, maybe 6. Goodrum is probably a little further down, and Michael, maybe he's earned his way back into top 30 or top 40 lists. So they're not, aside from Polanco, not necessarily top prospects, but these are guys that I think the Twins would like to be able to count on as depth and as possible starters going forward, or at some point, say 2 or 3 or even 4 years down the line.
I had Polanco at 6 coming into the year.
I had him at 7.
You had him at 6.
I did?
Yep.
Oh, good for me.
Buxton, Sano, Meyer, Stewart, Rosario, Polanco.
Here's a question for you, and those of you listening, feel free to continue this conversation in the comments or on Twitter, but in the comments on Twins Daily, because I'd like people's opinion on this as well. I was chatting with Travis Aoni the other day, and he said he was making an updated top 5, and he at this point has Buxton 1, Meyer 2, and Sano number 3. And I'm just curious how people listening to this, either on iTunes or live or on YouTube or however you're watching it, think about that. How would your top 5 look right now? With Sano's surgery, Meyer performing pretty well at AAA and looking pretty near ready. Buxton just coming back. Obviously, the Rosario situation. He probably won't be playing here for another 3 or 4 weeks. Cole Stewart doing pretty well down in Cedar Rapids. I'm curious what people's top 5s are right now.
Well, Seth, I think a lot of those prospect lists, it depends how you value things. When Steve Burr did his top prospect list, he had Meyer number 1 for the simple fact that Meyer was going to be the most important prospect that the Twins had.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think we all agreed with that, or at least I certainly agreed with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if someone wants to go ahead and say that the that Meyer should be above Sano, I'm okay with that because at this point, Meyer is more important than Sano. And with Trevor Plouffe playing as well as he has, it's a bummer that Sano's not playing because of what he offers the team. But there's a giant gap if Meyer's not there. Now, I think I would keep Buxton one just for the fact that he's offers something that not many teams have.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone wanted to say that Meyer is the number one prospect because he's more important to the Twins' future than Byron Buxton, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with that. Um, but at that point, I mean, at what point do you then say, well, Cole Stewart could potentially be more important too? Um, it depends on what you value, I value the upside more, and I think that's why I had Thorpe higher than most people did, and that's why I had Polanco higher than Rosario, which by one spot, what does that really mean? But
Right.
if you value the guys that are close to the majors, like the list that had Pinto so high, if you value that, then you're going to rank those guys higher. And I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody how to make a prospect list just
Right.
because. I mean, there's no right, there's no wrong. There's just it's what your opinions are, and for Travis, I think that's great if that's what he believes, and we can look back 5 years from now and what does it really mean though? I mean, if Mauer was ranked higher than a stud pitcher, but they're both studs, great,
Right. Right. Well,
Especially
and I've told this before too. I asked Kyle Gibson this a few years ago what it meant at the time for him to be the Twins' number one prospect, and his answer was, it basically means that I haven't done anything yet. So that's to your point about at the end of the day, prospect lists don't mean a lot. They're fun to do. They're fun to get conversation going. For me, they're fun in getting discussion going about these different players, some of which may never get above A ball or double A or whatever it is, and some of them who we may not have as top 10 types who become 10-year major league veterans and that kind of thing. So, I think it's fun to do, and I'm in that same boat. For me, it's primarily about potential as kind of the number one thing. But having seen Cole Stewart and Alex Meyer this spring, I think that the higher ceiling belongs to Cole Stewart. But because of the proximity to the major leagues, I have Meyer just a little bit higher. And again, that's 3 versus 4. So it's how big a deal is that at the end of the day? So, it's just like you said, everyone's got a different opinion and does it just a little bit differently.
Yeah, and that was like when Sano signed, and I think that was even before I really put a prospect list together. But I thought we might see Sano ranked number one in the organization, and he wasn't. I mean, I think he was like maybe even 5 or 6. He was lower, even though you would have looked at the guys above him and said, "Well, there's a good chance Sano's going to be better than this guy. He's going to be better than this guy." At that point, you didn't know how old he was. You didn't know how big he was going to be or what position he was going to end up. He played shortstop for a while, so I think they're good to just. I mean, for me, I enjoy looking back at it more to see how a guy changed from the previous year to the next year for my own interest, and not necessarily what I think he's going to become as a professional. I mean, obviously that goes into the next year's list, but to just see, hey, this guy really exceeded expectations, and if I had really high expectations, that I can look back and say, okay, well, what's the realistic goal for this guy? And but at the end of the day, you're right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the players. It doesn't matter to anything. And you forget about it basically as soon as they get in the major leagues. Did we have Dozier and Herman probably ranked pretty similar on prospect lists?
I remember having Dozier right around 10, 11, and for me, Herman was typically in the mid to high teens.
So, I mean, a few spots, but why was Herman even ranked? Do you remember why?
For me, it was because he took a lot of walks and he had a lot of doubles, and he was even then a good center fielder, a really good left fielder, and a guy who could catch, which, for me it was the versatility, but it was also the ability to take some walks and that type of things. The types of things we're not seeing right now from him offensively. but I think it is still there.
Right. And
It's probably
Dozier wasn't a super highly regarded prospect, but at this point, he's regarded pretty highly. So
absolutely.
I mean, it's just they're so you're comparing essentially guys that are 16 to guys that are 22, and there's just no great way to do it. And hopefully that some guys that you lowball prove you wrong, and some guys that you had ranked really high continue to be high. I mean but yeah, I mean if going back to the point, if people want to rank Meyer higher, great. If he's going to be an ace, fantastic. Let's rank him number one, and then we can all cheer about it when he's pitching in the playoffs.
That's right. So hopefully not too many of you are listening to the Wild game, and if you are, you should turn it on mute because I'm sure there's no excitement in XL Energy Center right about now. But you should just put it on mute and watch the hockey game while watching us right here. So listen to us instead.
I have it on mute.
I have it on mute.
See, so that's what cool kids do.
That's right.
The only thing else I wanted to say about the Miracle game before we move on was that Brandon Peterson, I believe this was his first appearance in Fort Myers, pitched 1 inning, had a wild pitch, allowed a hit, allowed a walk, but struck out 3 batters. So that's pretty neat. Brandon Peterson, we didn't do the transaction. So Brandon Peterson joined Fort Myers. Brian Gilbert was placed on the DL. Byron Buxton joins Fort Myers. Dalton Hicks was placed on the DL. And Randy Rosario was activated for the Colonels.
Was the Rosario one official now?
I guess I thought it was.
Okay. I've seen it speculated, but I've never seen for sure it happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, a little bit about Peterson. I got to see him pitch a little bit this spring in some intra-squad game, and also I think against the Rays, or it might have been the Red Sox. But he throws hard. He looks the part of a late inning relief pitcher. Throws hard. Has the ability to pitch up in the zone, and pretty decent secondary pitches. So I think he's in a good spot now with the Miracle. There's certainly things he can continue to work on. But Savage, Minnesota native, played in Burnsville. I think he played in the American Legion World Series or something like that. Went to Des Moines Community College and then to Wichita State. So I mean, he's got some experience and he's got that, pretty good school pedigree as well. So yeah, it's good to see him move up quickly, like Brian Gilbert, who now is on the DL.
I think the big difference. So Peterson's not exactly a huge guy, if I recall correctly.
No, I mean he's more standard size.
Yeah, he's listed at 6'1", 190. So he's probably 6 feet tall.
Right.
Okay. I think that leaves us with the Rotcats, who won convincingly tonight 6-0. Ronaldo Rodriguez had another good offensive night with 2 hits. Danny Ortiz also had 2 hits, drove in 2. Big Spoon, Kenys Vargas had 2 runs batted in, 2 runs and a hit, no strikeouts, and that about sums up the offense. Looks like Kenny Wilson had a double. Hey, Kenny Wilson, do you think he plays in the major leagues at all this year?
No.
So what if, I guess at this point it doesn't really matter because Hicks appears healthy, he'll be back, but they were going to roll with Sam Fold.
Yep.
If something were to happen to one of the 2 of them long term, wouldn't they have to bring up Kenny Wilson?
That's a good question. Depends on who they were able to make a really quick trade with, because I don't think it makes any sense to have Wilson. I mean, maybe you could do it for a few days if he's good enough defensively. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. You bat him ninth and expect him to go 0 for 15 and that kind of stuff.
Not even as a starter, though.
As a backup?
Yeah, he could be a 4th outfielder. He could be a guy that you can put in at center field and move Fold over to a corner, and your defense gets better. I mean, he's got a good arm. He's very fast. He's like Danny Santana has been, only he's an outfielder. He could hit the ball on the ground and run fast. I mean,
Right,
I
he just
just
hasn't. I mean, at least Santana's hit close to 300 most of his years. Wilson's never hit above about 230.
right, but I don't even. I mean, when they were going to bring a guy up, I mean, Santana is going to be your third shortstop, but now it's like when what was the situation tonight? Oh, if they were going to pinch hit for Herman, they were going to have another outfielder. It's like that's ridiculous that could possibly happen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you're
they're
gonna
definitely short on position players.
and if you're well, they're not short on well, they're one short, and now with Mauer they're two short, but they're not short on position players as much as they're short on outfielders. Kubal's Kubal's one of their two outfielders, and Kubal's should not be an outfielder. I mean, he can do it, but he was DHing for the Twins 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
So
Kubal's not really an outfielder, although he's, probably their best right now other than Sam Fold defensively.
and
Colabello's
Colabella's
just doing it just because that's the only way to get him in the lineup. I mean, people can bash him if they want for his defense, but he's not an outfielder.
right.
Willingham's been hurt. I wouldn't say he's an outfielder. And Arcia, I mean, he's I think better than Kubel. I think he would be if he played right field every day. I think he'd be better than Kubel, but he's not there right now either. So, and then you look back and you look at the depth situation. There really isn't a lot of depth if you're thinking Buxton's not up until sometime early next year. I mean, who else is going to make it in the outfield unless Parmalee, who really I think has to have a lot of things go right for him to get another opportunity.
Right, but I'm really thinking center field. Kenny Wilson could play center field,
Yeah, he
or at least
probably could.
be a fourth outfielder that could pinch run when Pinto gets on base, when he takes a walk, when he stops striking out all the time, and steals a base. I mean, he's not a fantastic base stealer, but he did steal 40 bases in 2009, 2010, and 55 in 2012. So he knows a thing or two about like moving from not so close to home to closer to home. I don't know. I mean, I didn't expect him to get called up. I also one of the guys that I said it's not going to happen, but I would like to see bring Vargas up for a weekend, and at least you have a bench bat. I mean, you're pinch hitting Chris Herman right now. He's your pinch hitter. That's I mean,
Well,
that's borderline crazy. I mean, it is crazy.
right, but Vargas right now is on fire, and he's been hitting well for about the last 10 or 12 games, but, I mean, Herman's more ready to pinch hit than Vargas.
Wouldn't you rather face Chris Herman than Kenny Vargas?
It depends on if I was a strikeout pitcher or not. I mean, first of all, I get it. Herman's not a great hitter by any means. No one says he is. Vargas wouldn't have a chance right now.
I think he would have a chance.
He can't catch a fastball.
I think he would have a chance. If you're down one and you have a
It'd be
guy
fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, give him a couple of bats and then send him down instead of bringing up another shortstop that's not even going to play. Sits on the bench for 2 games. Doesn't even play.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we talked about that on Sunday. I don't understand bringing Santana up if he's just going to sit on the bench for 3 days. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, and then the other thing is clear. Well, we should talk Twins topics here in a little bit, but I mean, if you're going to bring a 22 or 23-year-old up, play him.
Right, but at the expense of who? Florimon? I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have been Florimon's biggest supporters, and I don't think either of us thinks a 120 batting average is exactly enough, regardless of how good we think his defense is.
Right, but it also has hurt him that Escobar has been as good as he is.
Yeah, but I think both of us realize that as much as we like Escobar as a utility guy, he's not going to keep this offense up very long.
No, but at least give him a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that at this point. And according to your rosters and payroll on Twins Daily, Pedro Florimon does have an option remaining, so there is an option there to use.
Right.
I just don't think people should get too excited about Eduardo Nunez. He hasn't played more than a couple of games in the last 3 weeks.
Right. Um, Last night I sent you a tweet that I wanted to shuffle the deck chairs. Did you get that one?
I
And then you
did.
fell asleep with the coach. And then you dreamt about Johan Pino. Anyway,
I might have.
um, and here's just my thought. And I didn't even really formulate this whole plan, but here's what I'm thinking. Flormone can go down for now. That's fine. Santana should go back down. And I'm fine with that. Escobar can be your everyday shortstop. And there's no issue with that. I would like to see Nunez up to play a little bit at short, maybe a game a week. Play a game a week at third. He could probably play a game a week at left field or right field, probably left field, and be a bench bat the other 3 games a week.
I'm totally in favor with that at some point. I mean, he's only played like literally 2 games since his oblique injury, so if he can stay healthy for a week, I'm definitely okay with that.
And I'm fine with a week. But so I took off. Who did I take off? Santana, Flormone, Herman. He could go down. And then you send a pitcher down. That's really 4 other openings that you have for hitters. I mean, take one for Nunez, but that's 3 spots. In that case, I'd be okay with Arcia coming back up. But does Pinto, does he stay up the whole year if he continues to struggle? Is he a major league player all year at this point?
Not if he hits like 180. We talked so much a week ago, just 1 week ago, about how or at least I loved his approach to the plate, which was not swinging at balls that are outside the zone and just attacking pitches that were strikes. And right now he's kind of in that little phase, or whatever you want to call it. He's in a slump where he's expanding the zone. He's being a lot more aggressive than he has been the first few weeks, swinging at pitches he normally maybe wouldn't. So I think what we as fans need to understand is he the player that we saw for 3 weeks in April, or is he the player we've seen so far for 2 weeks here in May? And that's the part about making those adjustments as the season goes along, that he's somewhere probably in the middle. But is he closer to what we saw in April, or what we've seen so far in the last 2 weeks or week and a half?
I'd say he's probably closer to the player that we're seeing more recently.
And if that's the case, then yeah, he's not going to be around very long.
And then do you keep Herman up? Do you bring up Fryer?
I mean, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Which one's more important to you as a team, the left-handed bat or the right-handed bat?
Or the guy that can play multiple positions and...
Right, but if he's your backup catcher, he's not going to play multiple positions.
Well, I mean, he could still play left field and be available if Suzuki got hurt.
Yeah.
Or right field or whatever the case is.
That's true, especially if they have an Arcia or another corner guy up.
Right. Do you foresee... And I mean, I just suggest a lot of guys that could go down to Rochester without suggesting a lot of guys that could come back up. Now, Arcia would obviously be one of those guys that could... At this point, when he's activated, and he hit again tonight, did well, had a double. Do you see him becoming the everyday right fielder again?
I think so, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how the whole roster shapes up with that. When Mauer's healthy, he'll be at first. Kubel will probably be a DH, although Colabello can be there with Kubel in left and Arcia in right. Willingham being out, as you predicted so well, for much longer than the 15 days that we had originally maybe heard. He's going to be out for a while. So, I mean, it's going to just create some shifting, like you said, kind of musical chair kind of thing. But, someone's going to be sitting, and you want Pinto playing. He's not young, but at 25, he's not someone that you want sitting 5 days a week. It was great when he was playing every day. But at this point, I think they're absolutely right in giving him 2 or 3 days off in a row. But Arcia, I mean, again, 23 years old, you better be in the lineup every day somewhere.
Right. I agree with that completely. The guy that he was at AAA last year, and recently, and the guy that he was in the major leagues last year and recently, been two different guys. I mean, the strikeouts have been crazy
Right.
in the major leagues. So and I find it interesting because Rochester still only has 24 guys. I mean, Arcia's on the roster as a rehab guy, so it doesn't count to the 25. But I mean, the way that it's working, just simple math. If you're going to keep a spot open and have your rehabbing guy, when he is activated, you option him. You don't have to move anybody else. Now you just have 25 with the same roster, and he's a phone call away.
Right. Part of that issue is there's only so many on the 25-man roster. If you send Santana down and you're not going to bring up Wilson, and I'm not saying you wouldn't, but I wouldn't. I mean, you're kind of limited in who else can come up without adding someone to the 40-man roster, which of course means removing someone from the 40-man roster. So there's definitely only so many options there.
Right, but I think Nunez would be the guy that replaces Santana.
Yeah, and I mean, he would have been up all along if not for this most recent, the oblique injury.
Right. How tired are you right now?
I'm getting there. I'm good.
You look tired.
I might be a little bit, but we're at an hour and 22 minutes. We can go another 15?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of stuff to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about the starting rotation.
Okay.
We've had a complete game that turned into a loss for Ricky Nolasco. A solid performance the following night from Correa, or
Yep.
Phil Hughes. Correa was Saturday.
Yep.
Phil Hughes was very good on Sunday.
Yep.
Kyle Gibson was phenomenal on Monday. Sam Deduno sucked tonight. But 4 straight very good starts. And I think the combined ERA is still like second to last in baseball. But is this more the starting rotation that we expected to see at the beginning of the year?
Absolutely. I mean, not that you expect a shut or not a shutout, but a complete game from Nolasco every time out. You're expecting him to go 7 and give up hopefully 3 or less. I mean, same with Correa. He did it all last year. He had that 4 ERA or so, a little over, 4.5, which is 3 runs in 6 innings, and that's going to keep you in a game. So, I mean, I'm not worried. I expect that's where they'll be. Hughes is going to have his ups and downs. Correa is going to have his clunker from time to time. Nolasco is not going to strike people out. That's kind of the big thing is why people aren't overly excited about the Twins rotation is because they don't have guys who strike people out. So Pelfrey's out. I'm not worried about Deduno. I mean, I think he is what he is, and we know what he is. And yeah, he wasn't great today, but for a first start, it's not terrible. I was actually impressed with how much he really struggled early, that he still got through, I believe, 5 innings while on a pitch count. So I think at the end of the day, he's going to have the second or third best ERA if he were to stay in the rotation, till the All-Star break or something like that.
So what do you think happens to Pelfrey when he's healthy?
I honestly think, well, first of all, I'm not sure how injured he is at this point. But
bullpen went fine today.
What's that?
He threw a bullpen and there was no issues.
Yeah, that's shocking. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll go to either Rochester or New Britain or maybe even Fort Myers just to make it look good. Send him to Fort Myers for a couple of starts and get things back where he's in a lot less, say, pressure situation. I mean, clearly something's not right, and whether that was mental or physical, I don't know. But he was not the same pitcher that he was even in the second half last year, and he's better than what we've seen. I think people are quick to bash and quick to say get rid of him. Especially when it's fun to watch what Alex Meyer's done. 2 out of 3, and then 2 out of 3 again, or what Trevor May did with his 11 strikeout outing, and he's been pretty good in 4 out of 5. And Darnell was doing well, and Chris Johnson was doing well, and Johan Pino and others. I mean, while Pelfrey's struggling so badly, but Pelfrey is a solid pitcher. I don't think anyone's going to say he's great. I don't think even anyone's going to say he's any better than average, but he's better than what we've seen so far this season.
Speaking of pitchers, we just kind of didn't mention that Taylor Rogers had 6 1/3 innings of 5 hit, 2 walk, 5 strikeout shutout baseball for his second win in New Britain. He's had kind of a rocky start to this year. And Chris Johnson, pitching for Rochester, went 5 2/3, gave up an earned run, 1 unearned run, 6 hits, 3 walks, and struck out 8, which we didn't see in his Twins debut. He was walking a lot of guys, but he's a guy that that's obviously in the depth chart, and will continue to be that depth for that pitching staff that we've been talking about. Seth, how do you feel about going to our viewer questions? We have kind of a bunch to go through.
Yeah, let's do that. But let me just on Taylor Rogers real quick. I mean, he got off to just a horrible start. His first start, 9 runs, 7 earned in 4 innings. The second start, 6 runs, 5 earned in 4 innings. The third start, 4 runs on 6 hits in 4 innings. And then the next start, he gave up 9 hits and 3 walks, but just 3 runs in 6 innings. His previous start, 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 hits and a walk. So for him to throw 6 shutout innings, it shows that progression. And we hear so often that jump to Double-A is where you find out a lot about starting pitchers, especially like college pitchers like Rogers or Baxendale or Summers and some of these guys. Find out what they're made out of. And I mean, to see he's clearly made some sort of an adjustment over his last few starts, and to get to see that 6+ shutout innings is pretty encouraging. So I think we should probably need to talk about it no more than what I just did, but I mean I think that is definitely noteworthy tonight.
The first question that we're going to talk about is the one that we pushed back from last week, and that's the futures game. And we kind of talked afterwards, and if you had to predict right now, assuming that the Twins get one on the world team and one on the U.S. team, who are you taking?
At this stage, I think it's pretty simple. I think Byron Buxton goes because it's at Target Field, assuming he's healthy and everything. Typically they don't go 2 years in a row, but it's Byron Buxton. He's not missing a game in Target Field. And then the other one, the world team, I think it's pretty easy as well. I think Jorge Polanco is the pretty easy choice. Obviously there's some other opportunities or options, and Alex Meyer may fit into that. Cole Stewart probably would not fit into that at this year. So to me, it's pretty easy. Byron Buxton, Jorge Polanco. What do you think?
Well, those are my initial thoughts. Buxton being out made me think, well, could it be Alex Meyer? If he's called up, could it be Cole Stewart? You have guys that are representing their teams that early. That would be pretty early, but not unprecedented.
It's only not unprecedented by the Twins because they did it with Buxton last year. Last year was the first year that the Twins had a guy in his first full season play in the Futures League or in the Futures game. They didn't with Gibson, they haven't with others, and so that's why Stewart does become an option.
How much of that is up to the Twins, and how much of that is up to Baseball America?
It's, I think, primarily the Twins. Each team's going to nominate some players and basically yay or nay some players, and Baseball America and MLB has to kind of respect the team's wishes.
Right.
But they can certainly ask. They can request, whoever they want.
Right. Right. For the world roster, there's a lot of stud shortstops around minor league. So that's why, I kind of wavered on Polanco. The world team would be stacked with shortstops, and the guys like Mondesi, and there's a lot of guys. So I thought, would Polanco fit? Um, the guy that I think maybe is the dark horse is Max Kepler, and I think that because you typically don't have stud first base prospects for whatever reason. Um, in fact, I think the last two world rosters have had, maybe it's even the U.S. roster, have had relatively brutal first basemen, guys that you wouldn't even expect to be on a roster. Um, so I thought maybe Kepler could sneak in as a first baseman, uh, and having that a German, someone from a different country altogether would maybe help make that game more marketable in a country that never usually has players. Um, Barrios hasn't exactly been great, but could the Twins get a pitcher? Um, and would he be that guy? I would assume that he, would probably have to be the pitcher that represents the foreign team. Um, but I think there's more names, to consider than just Jorge Polanco. As much as I like Polanco, I do, but I'm just not sure that he's going to be the guy that fits when the numbers all get crunched together. If the Twins have a lot of other options um, for that position.
Well, at first, I don't necessarily think Polanco would play shortstop. I mean, you're right. You're talking about Javier Baez, Francisco Lindor. Um, you mentioned Mondesi, although he's really young.
But
I
you
think
could
they.
make the case that Lindor and Baez are both um, they could both play for the U.S. team because they were drafted from the U.S. I mean, if you wanted to make the room, Addison Russell would be on the U.S. team if he's healthy. I know he's hurt. There's just so many good shortstops that, yeah, I mean, you can move Polanco over to second base. Great, there's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think with first baseman too, there's options, and it's not that Polanco's been so good that you can't ignore him. He's been pretty good, but I just think it'll be a more interesting announcement when the numbers are crunched than just it's going to be Polanco.
Well, and to your point on first baseman or DH, I mean Vargas may fit into that equation if there is a need at first base, or if he can certainly if he continues to hit like he has. I don't know exactly when those rosters get set. I think it's about a month before the game, so early June, maybe mid June is probably when we'll find out.
Yeah, I think it's not a month before, maybe
2 weeks.
late June. It's not gonna be super early, but um, hey, there you go. Still watching that on mute?
I am.
Okay. Burton Hendrickson asks, is James Beresford a viable option at shortstop?
I mean, I guess I think that he can play shortstop. I think that he's played a lot of shortstop throughout his life, throughout his career. He just for the last couple of years has really been primarily, if not solely, a second baseman, and whether that's some sort of an opinion from the organization saying that's where he needs to be, or if that's because they've had Danny Santana on the roster he's been on for so many years. I mean, you consider that this year at Rochester he's only played second base. Last year at Rochester he only played second base. Last year at New Britain he did play 4 games at shortstop and 2 at third base, but most at second. The last time he played primarily shortstop. I mean, the reality is he can play good defense. He's going to play good defense. And he's probably not going to hit, although he was hitting cleanup for them for Rochester just the other day, and he did hit a home run yesterday. So,
Grand Slam.
huh?
He hit a Grand Slam yesterday.
Yeah, I mean he can hit a little bit. I mean he's not going to hit a lot of home runs, but he's kind of proven himself at AAA, and at this point he's 25, 26. It's time that I'd like to see him get an opportunity. I think he's kind of earned it over time. Yeah, he's just 25.
And he would be a guy, too. I guess I don't know speed-wise. He's not going to be able to change a game like Santana potentially could, but he would be a guy that would be fine to be added to the roster and not feel like you need to play him. That he could, be a defensive replacement at any of the, basically any of the infield positions. He could play third, okay. He could play short, okay. He could play second base. You're not going to, throw him into hit if you could help it, but just a utility guy that could fill a role. But Gardy's talked about wanting more. What was the word he used? With bench guys,
Versatility,
well-rounded,
depth.
versatile guys like that, and Beresford doesn't really offer that as much.
I mean, I like Beresford, and I think his defense is tremendous. I think that Doug Bernier is still hitting well over 300, I think, for Rochester, unless that's come down in the last day or two. But he's playing infield and outfield, and from what we saw, his defense is right up there with the other top defensive shortstops. I mean, I'd put him right there, not maybe with Florimon, but with Escobar defensively at shortstop. So, I mean, he's older. I get he's definitely a guy you don't mind being a utility player, and I don't think he would mind that at all. In fact, he'd be great for the role. But Beresford fits into that. The thing is he's still just 25, so you hate to have a 25-year-old just sitting on your bench the way they do with like Chris Herman right now.
Right. The next question was from John Harmon. Will Florimon be sent down?
I mean, if he's still hitting 100 in another week, I think the answer is yes. In fact, but I think the side answer to what you just asked was, will he be sent down? He might just be DFA'd, I mean, is there any concern about him getting claimed by another team? Maybe.
Yes.
I mean, maybe. I mean, but he doesn't play any other positions, so the team that claim him would really need a shortstop.
Right, but a team with an opening claims him and options him.
Right. And that's why I think that's just, I'm throwing that out there. I would option him if he's still hitting 100 in a week. But, I mean, it's at this point, it depends on how much playing time he's going to get.
Right. Because I guess my concern would be Santana's not going to stick. And Florimon, if he gets sent down, now you have two AAA shortstops.
Right.
Santana needs to play there every day.
Right. And this whole talk about Santana having played outfield, in 2010 he played 2 games in left field. In 2011 he played 15 games in center field. And I think he might have played 1 game in center field in 2013. I mean, I saw him play center field a game or two in Beloit. I think you said you have.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No, he looked, and I mean, obviously he hadn't done it, but he looked extremely uncomfortable and unsure of what he was supposed to do. And I think that's what Gardy saw when Gardy wanted to put him in the lineup in left field today.
Right.
That's crazy talk.
I mean, it's like Colabello coming up and making his major league debut in right field, having never really played there before. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Rene Sassoni had played only center and right in the minor leagues. He came up and they played him in left field pretty much every day. Arcia, he played a bunch of center, in Elizabethton, but right field pretty much ever since then, and they play him in left field. And I think people don't realize, maybe Gardy doesn't seem to realize because he never played outfield, that, and I'm kidding by that, by the way, to those that are the Gardy haters, he gets it, but the way the ball slices off the bat of a left-hander versus, hooking in right field off a right-hander, it's a different position, and you have to play it differently, and it takes, innings, and it takes a year. It takes a couple of years sometimes to just really get comfortable out there.
And I can't imagine that the simulated stuff they do before games is a great representation of what's going to happen when actual professional baseball players start hitting 95-mile-an-hour fastballs at you.
Right. I mean, it's just so much different. It's so different.
We had a few questions posted on our Hangout page. These questions came from KOHG, I believe was the user. First question was, when is Nunez going to be up? Pick a day.
Today is the 6th of May. I'll say the 9th, Friday.
So you think after this 4-game set?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the 13th.
So next Tuesday.
Yep, they have an off day Monday, and they'll call him up on Tuesday.
In other words, I think we both think it's going to happen relatively soon.
Yes, quickly.
It's just a matter of him getting healthy and getting into a couple of games first.
Right. Second question, any concern about Gibson's strikeout rate? Is that going to catch up with him?
I mean, history would certainly say it will. But the fact, I mean, I'm not quite as down on things just based solely on strikeout. I'm honestly more worried about his walk rate right now than his strikeout rate. But yeah, I mean, typically to be successful in the majors, you need 6 walks per 9 at the least, and right now Nolasco, Gibson, and who's the other one? Correa are all under 5. So I mean, it certainly doesn't bode well for sustainability, but I mean, he does get so much movement on his pitches that you don't necessarily see a ton of real solid contact against him either.
And yesterday he had a lot of fly ball outs, but yet still hasn't given up a home run all year, which you think that's going to catch up with him at some point too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at some point they're going to go, but I mean, I don't think that makes him less of a potential player. It means that he's got to make some adjustments as the hitters continue to make their adjustments. I mean, that's the story of the game, is making those adjustments, and what's he going to do?
Right. This one also posted on Twitter daily. Seth, were you really part of an early Saturday morning photo shoot, and did you wear your Diamond Award suit?
I was really part of a photo shoot on Saturday at Target Field with the Twins Daily guys, the 5 of us, Nick and Parker and John and Brock and myself. Yeah, we were down on Target Field, and we had the photographer was there, and we took, I don't know, all kinds of different pictures for about an hour. And yeah, I'm definitely not photogenic. You can guess that. And that got a little bit long. But yeah, I did not wear the Diamond Awards outfit.
So where are these pictures? Like, how come I haven't seen them yet?
Because they will be in a Twin Cities magazine coming up later this month.
Oh. So they're going to have to weed out all the bad ones and just pick a couple good ones, huh?
Yeah, I'm basically going to have to try to find a couple of good ones out of 500 probably. I mean, it took a ton of pictures.
Did you ever, pretend like you were robbing a home run in left field?
No. We stayed on the infield area, generally speaking, and we stayed on the warning track from on the third baseline. So we were pretty good. We stayed out of the way.
I think it would have been sweet if there would have been a bonus on the mound, and he's throwing you a ball, and Brock is typing at third base, and Parker's having a Coors or something. I don't know. Just some ideas that I'm having.
There you go.
Back to KOHG. Calabello seems to have cooled off a lot, which was to be expected. Probably wasn't going to knock in 200 runs. But where do you project Calabello's final line to be? Average, OPS, home run, etc.
I mean, so much of it depends on Arcia and Willingham, and if there's any trades and things like that. I mean, if Mauer, I don't think his current injury with the back spasms is going to have him out more than a couple days here. But if Mauer were to ever have a 15-day type of thing, that's going to get Colabella more playing time. So, I do think at some point RC is going to get a lot more of that playing time as well. So, I would expect him to hit somewhere in that 260 to 270 range. Get on base maybe 34-ish% of the time. And, home run wise, I expect him to get around 15. RBI wise, maybe 60 to 70 at the high point. What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, considering he has, 30 already?
Yep.
But you're right. It depends on how much he plays. I guess I don't ever see him going back down to Rochester, but I could see him becoming the right-handed bench guy, which I think is a perfect role for him, which would obviously limit his ability to really drive in a ton of runs. 4 home runs right now. I don't know that he gets to 15. Yeah, maybe. But
It's going to depend on the playing time.
We'll say that again?
It's going to depend on the playing time.
Right. I could see him being a 260 hitter, maybe not quite that high. I don't know that I go as far as a 340 on base percentage, because I think he's going to continue to strike out at a pretty high clip. He has taken a few walks, but I could see that coming down. I'm going to give him more than 70 RBI, but again, that does depend on the playing time. But I would say he sticks with the Twins all year, and after that, it's really hard to predict.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now that the book is out that the Twins are not a good hitting ball club, why the heck aren't you throwing them strikes? Teams are now throwing them strikes. What adjustments to the roster are the Twins going to need to make to reboost the offense? Well, number 7 is going to have to start playing again and hitting like he normally does, and Dozier will be fine. And Hicks, I think, is kind of the wild card. And I think the offense will be okay.
Yeah, Mauer's fine. Aaron Gleeman tweeted it last weekend that he started the season 0 for 10, and since that time he was hitting 317 or 327 or something like that. He's fine. He just started out with that 0 for 10, and if he was hitting 327 instead of 297, people wouldn't even notice. His on-base percentage is right there at 390. Add another 20 to 30 points of batting average, and he's up to 420. So I don't know what people want, other than I know they want home runs. Right. And I also think that people had this expectation that because he was playing first base instead of catching, that he would just suddenly put up numbers that he'd never put up before. But he's still the same hitter. He's just in the lineup every day instead of missing, 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 or sometimes even a few more because he was catching. This back thing, hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's just 2 days. But, players are going to have a couple days here and there throughout a season.
Right, especially when his body's now doing something completely different. He was conditioned to crouch for long periods of time, and obviously your body's going to break down when that happens, but now he's doing something completely different with his body, and you'd expect things to change even though he's a professional athlete. Okay, now we have a series of questions from Paul Pleiss.
I'm going to sit back for these.
Yeah. Question number 1, and I'm sure Paul is not listening live, but will be listening at some point. He'll be listening every second, so we better be thorough. If the Twins were sold tomorrow in a midseason deal and moved to another location, say Portland, Oregon, would you remain a Twins fan or find another team to root for? If you choose another team, what team would that be?
Well, that's an interesting question, and that's actually a good question. Do you want me to answer first, or do you want to answer, Jim? Absolutely, I'd still be a fan of the team. Having had the opportunity to meet so many of the players in the major league team now and also in the minor league team, obviously there's relationships there, and just you become a fan of the players and the team. Regardless of what the name's going to be, these are the players that are on your team. So for me, absolutely, I'd still be a fan of the Twins. I might be disappointed in the ownership, but or whoever made that decision, of course. And then if I had to pick another team, that I'd probably follow, I think I would pick the Cardinals. And it's not so much a front runner thing, but I do like how they run their organization. You know, they do build from within as their key point, and then they bring in nice pieces to kind of fit within that. Um, so I think that's what I do. I mean, the Brewers are certainly interesting right now, and with Fox Sports North, with them, you know, obviously being in Wisconsin, you're shaking your head as a Wisconsin fan or person, but I'm just not really a big fan of the Brewers.
I'm not either. I would have to. I mean, I would follow whatever Twins team it was, just because I feel like I've invested a lot of time in the system. But
Yep.
I could see the allegiance slowly going away if it's not something that was local. Um, I could see myself being a Cubs fan because I like the way that they're not that they're good, but that they have a system. Um, Also, it's close. You know, it's within driving distance. If I wanted to go down there, and Wrigley would be pretty cool to watch a game. The other team that I would probably find myself, watching would be the Pirates. One, because Pirates are cool, and two, because they just have. There you go. And two, because they have some good players that I think would be fun to follow for the next 10 years.
So we'd both be NL Central guys at that point.
Yeah, and I'm totally
That's a heavy.
anti-Brewers for whatever
That's
reason.
a,
I don't know. It doesn't make sense,
yeah,
but that's why I'm picking teams that would I could still not cheer for the Brewers.
understood.
That was an interesting question. Okay, going back to the typical not interesting questions. Why haven't the Twins tried to sign Barry Bonds as a bench bat?
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, you could probably talk him out of retirement at this point. I wonder if people would pitch to him if he was available right now.
I
Like
don't.
actually, if people would pitch to him if he came off, what is he, 47, 48 years old now?
I
He might
wouldn't
be
pitch.
older than that.
He probably looks like Barry Bonds from the '80s and not Barry Bonds from the 2000s.
He might. I mean, I think that's what we saw when he was at Pittsburgh for opening day.
Yeah. Why did no team? The reason that the Twins wouldn't sign him is the same reason that nobody would sign him, is because he's blackballed by Major League Baseball.
Well, right. I mean, that's the number one thing.
So,
And he's 49.
right. But I mean, he was still good when he was not getting sniffs. So I
Right.
think that the Major League owners had something to do with that.
Absolutely. In 2007, at age 42, he walked 132 times. He batted 276, got on base 48% of the time, and still hit 28 home runs.
And that was his last year in the league,
That was his last year. Since then, nobody wanted to add him.
which is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So I think we know why. Um,
Yep.
Moving on with his questions. If Chris Herman grew out his hair again, circa 2012 call-up, would his numbers begin to resemble his 2012 numbers from New Britain? Is there any hope that he could be a pseudo-offensive player, or is he just a warm body on the bench who can catch games and therefore allow Pinto to keep DHing?
Well, I think primarily he's there to keep Pinto DHing, although right now Pinto's not playing, period. And with their lack of, I mean, with Mauer hurt and Colabello at first, Herman's the best right fielder they have defensively. So, I mean, right now he's in a different role. He was brought up, I think, to have Pinto DH. That said, if you look at his numbers from last year, they weren't great, but he put together some decent at bats last year. I think he had some better at bats last year than what we've seen this year. I know a lot of people kind of claim that I'm this Herman Bobo, and I've never said he's going to be a great hitter, a great player. His value is versatility as a 24th or 25th person on the roster and allowing you to do some other things with the other players, and he's still there as a possible backup. I mean, I'd rather him be doing that than continue to see Danny Santana sitting on the bench.
So would his hair, if he grew the hair out, would that matter?
I think it would help. I do.
Okay. Are you disappointed that
Although
Dozier cut his hair?
I don't know. Maybe his fiance wouldn't feel so good about that. So I don't know.
But didn't Dozier get better when he cut his hair?
Yeah, and so did
Terry was
Plouffe.
better.
Plouffe's
Plouffe
big
too.
run came right after he cut his hair.
We're not looking at this the correct way. Maybe we need to analyze this more.
Maybe some players ought to grow their hair out during the off season and then shave it off right before the regular season.
Yeah, Mastriani did that, and then he got basically
Uh,
cut.
yeah, that's true.
Okay, next question. Seth, if you were pitted against Jeremy in a professional wrestling match to raise money for charity, what would your wrestling name be?
I don't know. Hulk Seth. No, I don't know. I don't watch that stuff. So I want to
Hulk.
come up with like Macho Man Seth or something like that, or maybe King Kong or Hound Dog. No, I'm just coming up with names that I think I heard in the '80s or something, but I don't remember. I don't know.
And then what would my name be? I
I can't
think
come up with
I
my
think
own
Eric,
name.
what's that?
I can't come up with my own name, so I don't know.
No, I think Eric Place on Twitter called me J Dog, so I'm gonna go with that because that's what he called me. And then
That's a
do
horrible
you
wrestling name.
who would win? Well, I'm the J Dog. This is never gonna happen, so it's not really that important.
Yeah,
And then who would
that's very
win?
true.
Um, Obviously it would be a draw because we probably would both be terrible.
And I'd fall asleep.
Then I would
Very
win.
possibly.
Paul would like me to say some not nice things about the rotation because last week I said some very not mean things and they did better. So he wants me to say some not nice things and then give him a reason to think that they'll regress towards something more positive. The not nice things that I can think of is that the strikeouts are not there. But no pitching staff could possibly be so bad at not striking people out that they have to get better.
You would hope so.
Okay.
I,
And
I
then
mean, I also
finally,
think Dumont's going to miss a few more bats too, so that'll help.
finally, Brad Swanson loves Eduardo Escobar. Do you love him too? Escobar.
I like Escobar.
Hashtag Eddie400. And will Escobar end the season with more or less than 400 at bats?
Less.
Less. I agree. All
Well,
right.
less.
Now that we've not quite made it to 11 o'clock, we're gonna cut it short because Seth is going to fall asleep. If you're
Cut
listening on
it short at an
iTunes,
hour and 58 minutes.
yeah, well, short of 2 hours. Seth is bobbing on the other side, and he's now
Not
going to
really.
after he's now yawning and his head's falling back. After I disconnect the call, Seth is going to write 3 articles, slam a Mountain Dew, pass a kidney stone, and then finally go to sleep. That's
Yeah.
what your wrestling name would be. Kidney stone.
Kidney stone. That's fun to think about.
Cripes.
I
Okay.
got my parents coming tomorrow night. Anyone want to help me clean tonight?
You have to clean yet?
Well, I'm thinking of, maybe do dishes, pick up
Hey,
junk.
where's Josie? Wake her up. Tell her to get working.
Yeah. Wake up, youngin'.
You made
Yeah.
this mess. All right, so we'll be back next Tuesday. Maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe we won't. Maybe Seth will be awake. Maybe he won't. It's all one
We'll
of
see.
the that comes with Twins Hangouts or Hangout Talk Twins. It's whatever you want to call it.
If
Tweet
anyone
us
has any ideas for names, let us know.
or a theme song
That'd be cool.
because I'm not musical and Seth sings sometimes. But hey, now that it's 11, we can officially sign off. Thanks for hanging out. Download us on iTunes. Subscribe to us.
I'm a loser,
Edit
baby,
this back,
so why
please.
don't you kill me? Soy
We'll see you
con
next Tuesday.
perdido. I'm just background music. I'm a
And I'm
loser,
signing off. We'll
baby.
see you
So
next Tuesday.
don't you kill me.